Welcome back. So the Swaziland Liberation Movement says Eswatini has become a safe haven for criminals. The movement was reacting to the deportation of 5 dangerous criminals from the United States. The inmates, originally from Vietnam, Jamaica, Cuba, Yemen and Laos, arrived yesterday and have been convicted of murder as well as child rape. For more on this story, we're joined in studio by the editor of Swaziland News, Mr. Zweli Dlamini, in studio with us. Mr. Dlamini, good evening to you. Thank you so much for joining us. I imagine that you on Swaziland News have covered the story quite extensively, but talk to me about just, the information that you've been able to gather about how this has been possible.
Thank you for having me. We started to cover the story on Wednesday morning. In fact, the news broke out around 6 a.m. When the information started to emerge, suggesting that a huge plane from the United States of America has landed at the King Mswati III International Airport. And upon further verification, we discovered that this plane was initially deporting 5 convicted criminals who were rejected from their respective countries. But we don't know. In fact, the government is failing to take the public into confidence how and when they reach this agreement to have these criminals deported to Eswatini. So for the duration of the day on Wednesday, members of the public were shocked and they were panicking, considering the fact that the Eswatini criminal justice system is not that much advanced to be able to track the movements of these criminals. And in fact, it was a surprise. The entire country was shocked. Even those who in the corridors of power, some cabinet ministers were not even aware.
The ministers were not even aware?
Yes, of course. As the story was developing yesterday, there was a massive discussion, a massive debate. In fact, it escalated to some form of a serious disagreement within the cabinet WhatsApp group. And even the Attorney General was questioning how the statement was issued by the government without him being consulted. So it appears that this deportation was somehow a deal involving the Prime Minister, and we're still investigating how much they were paid, those who were involved, how much they were paid for this.
So you think this was in exchange for money of some kind?
Yes, of course. I cannot entirely say it was a personal agreement between the United States and those in power. In fact, the country was involved. But what is ironic is the fact that the entire cabinet was yesterday in a serious disagreement because some cabinet ministers were not aware of this. So if it was a cabinet resolution, of course, the cabinet was supposed to be aware. But we suspect that the Prime Minister was involved because he was the one who was in constant communication with the United States. At some point, he even publicly declared that he was constantly in communication with the Secretary of State of the United States of America. And we suspect that in the midst of those discussions, this deal was secretly maybe reached.
Where do we, at this point, understand the 5 individuals are being kept?
In Eswatini, there's a prison known as Matsapa Maximum Prison. It's situated in the densely populated town of Matsapa in the central district of Eswatini. That is where dangerous criminals are normally kept. But as I've just mentioned, even the Matsapa Maximum Prison is not capable to keep these criminals, because when you track their background, what they did in their respective countries, you will understand that these are dangerous criminals. If they can escape, they can even escape to South Africa. So the entire SADC region is currently at risk. The security of the region is under threat with these deportations. Perhaps
we should actually go back to that very issue of what we understand to be the history and the crimes committed by these 5 individuals from these various countries.
Yes, these 5 individuals, they were previously convicted of murder. Some, they were previously convicted of rape, robbery. So these are serious crimes, considering the history that they have. The United States rejected them. They realized that they can't keep them. They are too dangerous to be in the United States. The United States then tried to deport them to their respective countries, and the statement that came from the Homeland Security of the U.S. suggests that their respective countries rejected them. And soon thereafter, a secret deal was reached with the Kingdom of Eswatini to keep them. And after the story created some public debate with members of the public expressing shock, in fact, for the duration of the day on Wednesday, it was dominating the public discourse. And that was when the government tried to explain how these criminals ended up in Eswatini. The government said they are not posing any threat to state security and the security of the public. And I can assure you that these criminals might escape in Eswatini, because Eswatini is a third world country with no proper security monitoring systems to ensure that these criminals are kept in a safe place or in a more secure place so that they cannot pose a danger to members of the public.
I must ask you to emote at a time like this, though, because, Mr. Dlamini, you are living here in South Africa for a reason. The reason being that you yourself have been exiled from Eswatini because of your work as a journalist as editor of Swaziland News, and have faced much violence you've talked about at the hands of the Eswatini government, and you can talk to us a little bit about that. But just what you think about then is you imagine these 5 individuals coming from different countries. These are dangerous criminals, while you yourself are here and are unable to go back home.
Yes, maybe if I can take you into context about the political system in Eswatini. And since the banning of political parties by the then King Sopoza, Eswatini has been ruled through a fragile and partial democracy. In fact, there's no democracy at all. So even the security system of the country is such a mess that in Eswatini now we're speaking about dangerous criminals who are welcomed into our country. But people with different political views are then regarded as criminals. Just imagine if a journalist is hunted and portrayed as a criminal just for writing news, informing the public what is happening in their own country. And then the very same government that regard journalists and other political activists, including human rights defenders, as criminals, branding them as terrorists, whatever, is welcoming dangerous criminals who were previously convicted of rape, of murder, of robbery. These are dangerous criminals, but they say, no, we can keep those criminals for you, we're fine. And now I can assure you, we're still investigating how this deal was reached, who was paid, how much, what is the country, or what are the authorities of the country benefited from this deal. That's what we're trying to find out, and we will eventually find out.
Mr. Dlamini, I want to let you go, but I think just one last question would be what you think the South African government should do or say about this matter of these 5 individuals that have gone into Eswatini.
As I've just mentioned, these 5 criminals who were deported from the United States to Eswatini are not only a danger to Eswatini state security and citizens, but this is now a regional security threat. So I will urge even South Africa and other neighboring countries to demand accountability, how this thing happened. And if Eswatini government is saying these criminals will eventually be handed over to their respective countries, we need to know when and how will this thing be done so that we can monitor the movements Even now you were asking me where they are kept. It's important as a journalist, you must ask that question for your audience. They must know where they are kept. So if I'm saying they are kept in Matapa, I must from time to time verify if they are still there, so that we can know where they are. So if the government is saying, no, we will eventually hand them over to their respective country, we need to know when. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Mr. Zweli Dlamini, the editor of Swaziland News, in studio with us. Thank you so much for joining us. Of course, Newzroom Afrika has extended an invitation to the Eswatini government for a discussion or a response to the interview and other related issues. We take a short break. We're back in a moment.